ask a little true. I'd like to know your point of view.
This morning, under indictment and out of a job, actress Lori Loughlin dumped by the Hallmark Channel after investigators say she and her husband paid $500,000 in bribes to get their children into USC.
Hi everybody, I'm Evening Ransom and welcome to Evening TV. So what is going on here? I tell you what, I was so distressed by this story. There's just so much wrong with what happened here. There's this entitlement where the rules just don't apply. The rules just don't apply. But the really sad thing about this, I thought, was that what lesson has this mother taught her daughter? You know, it's so degrading. The daughter was operating a successful business. She was showing her authentic true self and what she really enjoyed doing and what was authentic for her. Plus these parents, both of them neither one of them went to college. And so, you know, maybe there was an inherent personality type they were passing down that wasn't college material, wasn't college, you know, just that wasn't in the cards for them. And I very much understand this because I did go to college, but I also I have a very entrepreneurial spirit. My ex-husband, very much entrepreneur, not a student, and my kids were not students. They were not natural students at all. And for me to try and, you know, force them into college would have been beating my head against a wall. There was no point in it. You know, I had one son that was just clearly a musician. That's what he needed to do. He needed to do to be happy. And I had, you know, another one that is, you know, very much into a certain kind of sports, and he wants to be a stuntman. And so, you know, there was no point in my forcing them into college. Especially, it's so expensive, such outrageous debts. The kids are getting out of school. You know, half of the kids that get out of school don't even take jobs that require their degree in the first place. And, you know, it really is just this incredible luxury item that isn't really all that practical and all that necessary anymore. And you know, but you know what her daughter already had going was something that people strive their entire lives to try and achieve a success. She had a successful career already. She has a successful career already. And what her mother did, and I really do feel that it was very much this mother, because I've seen enough interviews and things where it was clearly this was an insecurity of her own, that she didn't go to school, and she you know, she wanted to fix that. It was like a status symbol for her. It was like another, you know, a thing you do, like you have a yacht or you have a jet or something, and so, you know, the kids have a degree. It's just one of the boxes you have to tick off. But the idea that the absolute, we all know that the rich had an edge on college. We always knew that, right? Because not only, you know, you can afford the classes to get, you know, you get tutors, you can get the best schools, you can take the prep classes, you know, you have all the advantages stacked in your favor if you have money. Period. You know, hands down, if you have money, you have the cards stacked in your favor already. And that's without cheating, you know? So even without cheating, the cards are really stacked in your favor. Then you have things like, for across time, you know, wealthy parents have done things like, there have been preferences given to, if your family went to that school, if you are, you know, if your grandfather or somebody went to the same school, you get some nepotism, you get some, you know, you get priority over someone who doesn't have that. It's just one of the perks of, you know, it's just one of the perks. It's just sort of the way it is, you know, and that's okay. You know, better to start learning some of those realities about life, right? And so, you know, if you have a well-to-do family and they bought, you know, there's a building on the campus with your name on it, your family's name on it, because that was, you know, so-and-so did something and gave money there. Yeah, you might have an edge on getting into college. You might, you know, they might even overlook a C grade or something, or, you know, maybe your thing wasn't as good as someone else's, but, you know, there's all this benefit to the school and all the student body, if, you know, because there's all these donations and stuff that your family has given, and that earns you something. Okay, those are they were never fair. It wasn't a fair, quote unquote fair, but it was sort of an accepted thing that we all sort of knew was going on, and especially in these private schools. And let me just say, USC, in my mind, my way of thinking, USC was never known for it being like this superior academic school. It was sort of known for, the University of Spoiled Children. It was a school. It was a school where it was known for having well-to-do alumni. It was known for having a lot of alumni donations, and basically, if you had parents that went there, you had parents that donated to the school, that's kind of sort of a big pull on how you got in. But in my mind, I remember it was not a hard school. It was not the hardest school to get into academically. I got into that school. But I didn't, it was expensive. I didn't want to go there. It was too expensive. It just wasn't my culture. It wasn't my thing to go to that school. And, because I went around and checked them all out. And when I went there, I did not like it. But, so I never thought of, that one is certainly quite different from Yale. The other examples they were giving were Ivy League schools. And those are quite different. And those kids spend their entire lives building up to that. They go to prep schools and all this kind of stuff. And, this just was not these girls. These girls were not that kind of girls. They were not that kind of students.
Olivia Jade.
Clout is an actual word.
Oh, I thought it was just like a social media thing.
Once again, money on that education.
Why'd you go to college?
Mostly my parents really wanted me to go.
Also dumped Lachlan's daughter, YouTube star Olivia Jade, dropped by beauty sponsors Sephora and Tresemme after becoming the face of the scandal. Multiple media outlets reporting both of Lachlan's children now withdrawing from USC.
The worst kind of role model that I can imagine out there. And the mother was just modeling such poor values for her daughters, and then the daughters who have all this social media following, I'm sure with younger girls, because that's usually how it goes. What message have they just sent to all these people that are following them? And I find it this is basically just a taste of exactly what's wrong, what's such a problem, and what the narcissism epidemic is all about. It really is what the narcissism epidemic is all about. Just this idea that we can work around things, we can, make the world work to, tweak it, follow what rules we want to, and that kind of stuff. And, this is just such a this is so different from the, favoritism towards the wealthy that has always existed. It was never fair. We always knew that. But this is taking it to a whole new level when you are actually paying people to change test scores, paying people to pose as your child to take tests, putting fake faces on sports teams, on athletes, so that you can make your kid look like they participated in things that they didn't participate in. And the message overall and all of that too is really, it's such a terrible message to the kid. I mean, if I was that kid, I would feel so bad. I would feel so bad that my parents didn't think I was good enough just being who I am. That, that the world is going to completely revolve around her. I don't know. But she does seem to have a work ethic, despite the lessons that her mother is teaching her here. She seems to have a work ethic about her own channel and the passions and the things that she really loves. Her mother should have been encouraging her to do the things that she was naturally doing, and getting behind her instead of trying to mold her into something that she was not, clearly not. And so now it's just a mess. The girls have been they're going to be completely, I'm sure that they're going to find some way to spin this and it'll all work out just fine. But for right now, it's a really tough thing to be 18 and, having to drop out of school. You and your sister both get dropped for all your endorsement deals. Mom got dropped from her job. I mean, they're going to pay a big price for this. And they seem to be the ones that were at the very worst of parents. The only other parent that I've heard, Felicity Huffman, which surprises me. That is not who I thought. To put those two together and doing the same thing, it really surprises me. I thought that Felicity Huffman and William H. Macy were much more down to earth than that. That surprised me. And they didn't go as far. They certainly didn't go as far. These people often they were in the hundreds of thousands of dollars and doing really bold things. Whereas, from what I understand, the only thing that Felicity Huffman I've heard did was that she paid $15,000 to give her kid unlimited time to take a test. And that when it came down to it, she backed out or something, that she got cold feet about something, and it didn't completely go through with the whole thing as it was set up to do. But she, definitely did do something, and they wanted to make an example of her because they came into her neighborhood in the middle of the, early morning, sirens blaring, took her out in handcuffs. I mean, they were not messing around. So that had to be really devastating for Felicity Huffman. And I'll be interested to hear how this went, because maybe there was some spin on it where she didn't realize what she was getting into. I don't know. I'm not going to try and make excuses for her now, but it sounds pretty dang sketchy, and I just, it's going to be interesting to come up with some explanation that's going to make any kind of sense, where it could be anything but really, really, really bad. And I don't know how much the girls knew also. That's another question mark. If the girls didn't know, then that certainly lets them off the hook quite a bit. But I sense that they did know. I sense that they did know quite a bit. And now I will say, just a fairness. I remember when I was that age, when I was 18 and we were making plans for college, I listened to all the advice my parents gave me, and it was bad advice, and I followed all of it because I thought they knew what they were doing. I thought they had my best interest at heart, and they weren't cheating or anything, but it was all about them. It was what they wanted. And they were kind of not really paying attention to me and who I was, what my strengths were, and what would be best for me. They were basically insisting I pick a major, I pick a school, and all the stuff that worked out really for them. So I went to UCSB. I wanted to go to the same, kind of went true with my major as well. I wanted to be, I was an artsy kid, I was a creative kid. I wanted to do theater arts, dance. I was a dancer. I wanted it, at very least writing. I wanted to do all those were off limits. None of those majors my parents would support. In fact, I initially enrolled in business and economics. Was my initial major when I first started as a freshman, and that was never me. That was never me at all. And it was my first immediately. I was getting the worst grades I've ever gotten in my life because I hated it. I couldn't do it. I wasn't prepared for it. It wasn't my skill set, and I had to change it. And I ended up getting a degree in communication studies, which is essentially like it's a version of journalism, sort of, in my school. So it was the closest thing I could get that my parents would approve of, that I could enjoy and could do, because they didn't want to pay for me to go to college to get a degree in some kind of art. And then lo and behold, one of the very first things that happens is I'm living in Los Angeles, and I get discovered by an agent, and I don't have the confidence to go do it because I haven't studied theater arts in school. And they wanted me to come do a screen test, and I had an into beginning an acting career right there, then and there, and I didn't follow up with it because I didn't have the confidence. I didn't think I could do it, and I also didn't think my parents were approving of it because they had been so against it in school. All of these things, I was doing lots of things to please other people. And, that's just what I did at the time, because I didn't trust my own judgment that well because of being raised this way. But you can see that, what is that mother doing? She's telling her daughter to not listen to herself, because she's not listening to her. She's just completely overriding her. And it's so familiar to me. This is exactly the way that I felt like my dad was, except for in my case, I wasn't getting the support. It wasn't like they were going to back over and put themselves on the line for me. It was just, push, pressure. So anyways, the point of that is that you can't, you can't control people. That's going to backfire. I'm just really surprised that this Olivia Jade, her self-esteem seems so intact, and that the relationship with the mother seems so intact, because they do seem, maybe this is just an isolated thing. Maybe college is just an Achilles heel for her. It seems maybe that was the case, because they do seem close, and Olivia Jade doesn't seem like she's got low self-esteem. Quite possibly she could end up being a narcissist. I haven't paid a lot of attention. I haven't watched much of her stuff, so I don't know what she's like, but she seems confident, and she's definitely got a lot of popularity on YouTube. People seem to be responding to her really well, and she seems very ambitious and very organized. I know, having raised kids that are, to have someone at 18 years old who's able to be as organized as she is to pull off the channel that she's doing is quite a feat, especially because for whatever, she was also in school, and so there was quite a bit she was doing. So I don't know, I just think that it's really too bad that the mother couldn't appreciate the daughter that she had. She had a daughter that was doing just fine, and then also just the mindset of thinking the rules aren't for me, we're above the rules, is really bothersome, really, really bothersome. And it really encompasses a lot of what we got to fix in this country. And to think, I just think as a mother, how I would never want my sons to have thought that. I would never want them to see me doing that. I mean, even if I was going to do something like that, I would completely do it in secret. I would never want my kids to know. It's such a terrible message. It says, I don't believe in you. It says the rules aren't for us. It's just a terrible all around message. So, I don't know, but I'm real curious what you guys' thoughts on this are. Please in the comments let me know what you think about all of this. I'm going to follow up with this video get too long for me to do the whole thing on my whole study on situational narcissism. So I'm going to come back and finish that with the whole discussion on the Kardashians and other different storylines that I was going to mix in here, but this was just too all-encompassing. I needed to just go ahead and just stick to this one for this video. So anyway, please let me know what you think in the comments, and like this video, subscribe to my channel, and I will talk with y'all very, very soon. All right, bye-bye.